So welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and my YouTube channel. And I'm very excited to be joined by my guest today. He is, of course, the superb Gyles Brandreth. Thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm excited to be with you. Well done you doing Hospital Radio. Well done Hospital Radio being there and happening. I've been in hospital at Christmas. And actually, it's a time when you don't get as many visitors as you think you might, and it's quite nice to have Hospital Radio. So congratulations.
Oh, that's
and
very kind of you.
A nice, soothing voice too that I hope will enable people to get better merely by listening to you.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say. Now, I must say, in honour of having you on the show, this isn't going to work for radio, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have actually donned a jumper because I know that you're a big fan of jumpers. So where did your love of different types of jumpers come from?
It looks like a 3D Christmas jumper to me.
So it's a snowman with a 3D carrot, which is basically sticking out. He's sort of going down a mountainside.
Yeah, pretty obscene, let's face it. But it's amusing in its own way. I'm wearing a jumper today. The one I'm wearing is because I'm the Chancellor of the University of Chester. And it's a beautiful, rather handsome jumper. I have been wearing jumpers off and on now for nearly, wait for it, 50 years.
Wow.
A long time ago, in fact, 50 years ago in 2021, in 1971, I founded the National Scrabble Championships. I was young, I was a student, and I liked playing Scrabble. And I thought, let's have a Scrabble competition. So I put an ad in the newspaper saying, who wants to take part in the National Scrabble Championships? And literally thousands of people got in touch. So I organized this competition. And it was a big success. And it grew and grew as the years went by, and it's now global. Scrabble championships happen all over the world, and I'm proud to say I am the president of the Association of British Scrabble Players. But at one of these competitions, in year 2 or 3, in the early to mid-70s, somebody turned up holding a jumper. And on this jumper, they had hand knitted a Scrabble board. Now imagine the detail of a Scrabble board. And they'd written, Gyles Brandreth loves Scrabble, in Scrabble letters on the Scrabble board, all done by hand. I thought, this is amazing. So I wore this, and people took photographs, and they noticed it. So when I started to be regularly on television, particularly doing TVAM, which was the first breakfast station, commercial breakfast station in this country, and a show called Countdown, which is still going, has been going for about 40 years on Channel 4, I wore these jumpers, and people noticed them. And the reason I wore the jumpers was that I'd read in the newspaper that people, what they see and hear on television, 83% of what they recall is what they saw, only 17% of what they heard. So how you look is more important than what you say. And given no one's going to be looking at me for my looks, I thought, let's give them something to look at. That's how the jumpers began. And they've gone on and on and on. And there's been a big revival in them recently to do with, amazingly, Princess Diana, because my jumpers were designed mostly by a man called George Hostler. And he sold them in a shop in Kensington High Street. And one day, Princess Diana, who had been married to Prince Charles, lived at Kensington Palace, came into this shop and bought a couple of jumpers that I wear. And these were photographed, and they became hugely popular. Anyway, because of they got round in The Crown to the episodes covering the Diana years, there's been a big sort of Diana fashion revival. And these jumpers have resurfaced. And now there's a shop in New York that's selling them. There's Selfridges, you can get them in London. The label, gylesandgeorge.com, you can find some of the jumpers there, and there are going to be more. So it goes on and on. Now, the problem you're going to have with me, Matthew, is that you ask me one question, and then it's almost next Christmas before I give you a chance to ask the next question. So I will shut up now.
No, we love it. We absolutely love it. Now, obviously, life as we know it has been very strange for a lot of people. We're all stuck in lockdown. We're lockdown point 2 now. For you, how have you coped with this new way of life, with the place we find ourselves in now?
Well, the upside is that I've been very lucky in that, I haven't caught it because I've been sensible. I've obeyed all the rules. I've worn the mask, I've kept the distance, I've washed my hands. But B, I've also been very busy. and I like being busy, but I've been lucky enough to be busy. A lot of people in the entertainment world have had a terrible year. And when it all began, back in February, March, I was due to be doing a stage show with the great Dame Judi Dench, and that had to be put on hold, postponed. Then I was due to be doing a tour all over the country. That had to be postponed. But luckily for me, I write books. So I thought, well, I'll write a book. So I got on with writing a book, and it's now out. It's called The Oxford Book of Theatrical Anecdotes, and it's full of theatre stories because I love live theatre. So it's full of fun theatre stories. And I've always loved theatre, even ever since I was a little boy. And I was very lucky because I went to a school where one of the masters had a good friend, in fact, his best friend from the army, who was an actor called Roger Moore. Now, have you heard of Roger Moore?
Yeah, I think we've heard of Roger Moore.
No, you're very young. You might not have done. He was the second famous James Bond. I think he was the third James Bond, but he was the second famous James Bond. And he was also a lovely man. And when I was a boy, because his best friend was one of my teachers, I knew him. So when I grew up, I went to see him and I said, I want to be an actor. He said, really, Gyles? With those looks? Which wasn't very kind, but I knew what he meant. I wanted to be a film star. That's what I said. I want to be a film star. And I said, Roger, I read in the paper that you said all you ever offered a director was two looks, either left eyebrow up or right eyebrow up. Teach me that. Teach me that. That's all I need. So Roger Moore taught me how to raise my eyebrows. And if your listeners find this difficult to believe, go to my website, gylesbrandreth.net, and you will find pictures of Roger Moore giving me a masterclass in raising my eyebrows. And I was able to get the left eyebrow up beautifully, as you can see. I could not get the right eyebrow up. And eventually I said to Roger Moore, thank you, Roger, for teaching me this, but I'm not really doing it very well. I'm getting the left eyebrow up, but I can't get the right eyebrow up. Tell me why this is. And he said, Gyles, it's very easy to explain. It seems you're half the actor I am. So not that features in my book. I don't know why I thought of that story, but he's a film star. And my book is all about theatre stories. And I love the theatre. So the point is, I've been very busy writing my book, but I've also been doing a couple of other things. One is learning poetry by heart. Last year, I published an anthology of poems to learn by heart. And the idea came about because I had discovered something doing some research. Two things, really. I discovered that small children, even babies before they're born, if you speak poetry to them, rhythmical poetry, they will learn to speak better themselves sooner. They'll learn to read better and to write better and sooner. The very fact of speaking rhythmical poetry to them, a facility of language can be communicated with small children, with babies even. And then I discovered that at the other end of the spectrum, old people, people of my generation now, if you learn poetry by heart, it can keep your synapses supple. You know, the brain is a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. And all other things being equal, if you learn poetry by heart, it can help keep dementia at bay. It can keep your mind working. It's good for you. The really interesting thing I discovered was that I keep forgetting things. Well, that's what I think. In fact, I'm suffering from senior moments. I haven't forgotten them. I just can't remember them when I want them. And they come to me 20 minutes later or in the middle of the night. And then I have to phone my friend and say, you know, the person I meant to tell you about yesterday, well, I've now remembered who it was. And that's to do with retrieval. Your memory is still there. In your memory, the part of the brain that makes the memory is called the hippocampus. You grow as many new cells in your hippocampus at the age of 70 as you did at the age of 17. So it's not a matter of memory function. So the point is, I decided to try to learn poetry. And I've had fun doing it, and I've encouraged other people to do it. And I've got this wonderful scheme going called Poetry Together, where we're getting young people and older people to meet up online this year. Last year they met in person, and to perform poems together online. And it was very moving when we did it last year. Basically, the idea is you get a group of school children, they learn a poem by heart. And then the school, gets an old folks home, a care home near them, and says to them, we're learning this poem. Do you want to learn a poem too? They learn the poem, and then they perform it together and have tea. And last year we did it, and there was a wonderful event, the sort of climax of it, that the Duchess of Cornwall came to. And the children all marched in and did their poems, and then the old people did their poems. And then the climax, we had some Chelsea pensioners there, was that these children, aged 7 and 8, came marching into the room with these Chelsea pensioners, going, "They're changing guard at Buckingham Palace. Christopher Robin went down with Alice." And they did the whole of the A.A. Milne poem together. And then one of the boys, who was about 13, 14, stepped forward with one of the old soldiers, a man in his early 90s. And together they recited a First World War poem by Siegfried Sassoon. It was very, very moving. But the point is, it was a special, fun thing for both the old people and the young people to do. And learning poetry by heart, it's not as challenging as people think if you learn 2 lines at a time. I will do a test with you, Matthew.
Go on then.
Repeat after me. It's a very short poem. You'll be able to learn this. Basically, what I'm saying to you is only try to learn 2 lines of poetry at a time. If you try to learn a whole poem, you'll get terribly confused. Just a couple of lines each day. Good thing to do in hospital, actually. Choose a poem. Maybe a poem that you learnt when you were a child. Revive an old poem. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea green boat. Try and bring that to mind again. Find it. Get a book of poetry. There must be one in the hospital. Get a friend to bring one in. Find a poem online. Maybe The Owl and the Pussycat. And learn it 2 lines at a time. The satisfaction is amazing. And when you fall asleep in bed at night, or trying to get to sleep, because hospitals can be quite noisy at night, repeat the lines of poetry again and again, and you soothe yourself to sleep. It's like counting your blessings. Now, learning 2 lines at a time. Here's 2 lines for you. There was a young man from Peru.
There was a young man from Peru.
Say that again. Make sure you've learned that one.
There was a young man from Peru.
You've learned that. There was a young man from Peru. Now, here comes the second line. Whose limericks stopped at line 2.
Whose limerick stopped at line 2.
Okay, say that again. Whose limericks stopped at line 2.
Whose limerick stopped at line 2.
Now go back to the beginning and say both lines together.
There was a young man from Peru. His limerick stopped at line 2.
Well, boom. That's the end of the poem, and you've learned it.
Yay!
You, Matthew, can learn 2 lines of poetry in 2 minutes. And obviously, those are easy and it's silly. But actually, you could learn 2 lines of a real poem, of a sonnet, if you learnt it just slowly, 2 lines a day, repeating them again and again, repeating them with your snooze after lunch, repeating them when you're washing in the evening, repeating them as you go to sleep. And then the next day, you've learnt them. And then you learn the next 2 lines. And within 7 days, you've learnt an entire sonnet, which is fantastic. So I've been having fun doing that. I've been able to get out and about on my tricycle. I ride a tricycle. That's been fun. And because I've been lucky, I've been able, when I finished my book, the first lockdown lifted, and I was able to start going back to work. So I did a Celebrity Gogglebox.
Which looks like a lot of fun with you and Maureen Lipman.
Great fun. And it does you good. Look, Maureen began Gogglebox, Celebrity Gogglebox with me as plain Maureen Lipman. She's now Dame Maureen Lipman.
Of course, yes, we mustn't miss out the Dame.
That's the Gogglebox effect. I think it's probably her reward for sitting with me and having to watch Naked Attraction. But it is fun. And they do it as live. You don't, it was, we were COVID aware, but we weren't, there was no one to see. The film crew arrived and they installed the cameras in the sitting room, and then they went away again. And so we didn't see them. It was all done remotely. So we just sat and watched the shows. They do it as live. They don't give you a choice what to watch. They choose what you watch. And then they then edit, and you almost immediately forget that you're being filmed. So I did that. Then I did a television series with another of my Gogglebox friends, Sheena Hancock. And that started going out recently on Sunday nights on Channel 4. And it's been fun going on canal boats. We took over from a marvelous pair of actors who we know well, Timothy West and Prunella Scales. They'd done it for quite a few years and wanted to take a break. So we took over from them. they're irreplaceable. So we haven't replaced them. We've just taken over for a while.
I mean, had you ever done anything on like a canal boat before?
Never. And if you've seen the first episode, the first couple of episodes, you will think, my God, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I didn't. I had no idea. On a canal boat, with the tiller, if you want to go to the right, you steer to the left. I find that very confusing. And I can't do two things at once. I can't talk and drive. So, for example, I can't listen and drive. When I'm turning a sharp corner in the motor car, I always turn the radio down. Can't do two things at once. Just can't. But it has been fun. What have you been doing during lockdown?
See, for me, this is actually, I started up this series in lockdown. So back in April time, but beginning of April, I started up the isolation interviews because we weren't able to get into our studios in Reading. So we were having to do things from home. So I then came up with this idea. Also been working, so doing my day job.
What is your day job?
So I do self-storage. So that's remained open the whole time.
Self-storage, this means all my old rubbish.
Basically, people put stuff into storage that they either don't need or that they want to keep but they don't want to chuck. So they come to us. So yeah, I've been quite busy over the course of this year, really.
My wife would like you to have everything that I own. We're doing our own self-storage in the basement. She's told me that the moment I snuff it, before she phones the undertaker, before she phones the doctor even, she's going to be phoning the skip people. All my jumpers, all my boxes of memorabilia, they're all going onto the skip. So I may have to, before that, come and move into one of your... You've got a great big building, have you?
Yeah, we've got plenty of space all around London. So yeah, come and let me know, and I'll find you a space.
I think she'd say no. Then it'll be there forever. It'll be that Matthew rent forever.
Now, one thing I think many people would agree with me in saying is that there should be a knighthood on the way for yourself. I mean, Sir Gyles, come on, it's got to happen.
It's got a ring to it, hasn't it?
It really has.
But there you go. The reason I sound this fruity, speaking of theatrical nights, is that I was a friend of a lovely actor called Donald Sinden, and he did deserve a knighthood. It was a long time coming in his case, but eventually it came. And I always think of him whenever I do an interview, because before the interview, I try to get my diction up to speed. And Sir Donald Wolfett taught me this. And this is a good, I mean, if your speech therapists will be interested in this, I don't know if some of your people listening or patients are having speech therapy. This may be one of the exercises you do, because Sir Donald Sinden, with a very fruity voice, magnificent old school actor, famous for TV series like Never the Twain, The Two of Us, but also a great classical actor. He explained to me that when it comes to diction, vowels give you volume, consonants give you clarity. You've got to get the two working. Vowels for volume, consonants for clarity. So he taught me this little exercise to get my vowels working and my consonants clear. Repeat the following. I shall do it once. This is what you do in front of the mirror before you go, for your broadcast, or you go onto the stage. I say the following. Hip bath, lavatory, lavatory, bidet, bidet, douche. I'll do it again. You can join in as well, man.
Yeah.
Hip bath, hip
bath. Lavatory, lavatory.
Bidet,
bidet.
Douche.
Douche.
It's getting the mouth moving, the vowels are coming over nicely, and the consonants are clear. Because I find, I watch television now, and I'm missing everything, well, not everything, a lot that's going on, because to me, they're mumbling, and I want better diction. My children and grandchildren say, oh, it's just your ears, get your ears checked out. But in fact, I can hear, put on an old movie, I can hear every word. When I go to the theatre, and it's a good play, I hear every word. But the mumbling and the muttering. So I've got the, one of my grandchildren very kindly has put the subtitles up. So now I can read the subtitles, which helps. Unfortunately, I can't get the subtitles down, and now we're in lockdown, so I can't get the grandchild round to undo the subtitles, but that's life.
Now, I just want to say, Gyles, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really feel like I've learned stuff today, so thank you for that.
You've learned how to learn a poem by heart.
Exactly.
You've learned how to improve your diction. And I do hope, actually, people listening to this in hospital around the country, I've been in hospital a few times, and I've been in hospital actually over Christmas once. I quite liked it in a way. I did quite like it because the people who came were people who really cared, and there was a nice, quite a special atmosphere. But I know it's challenging, and also in the COVID world, it's, you know, you're a little bit apprehensive all the time. But so well done. If you are in hospital, well done. And well done to the cleaners and the catering people and the nursing staff and the doctoring staff and all of those people. All brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And well done to you and the volunteers who are keeping the hospital radios going.
Oh,
Fantastic.
thank you. It's very kind of you to say. I mean, to say it's not, you know, everyone in the NHS does an amazing job at the moment. We're so grateful to have such an amazing service that we can all rely on. So, you know, I'm sure everyone will join us in saying a massive thank you to the NHS as well.
I'll end, if I may, with a short poem.
Yeah, sure.
Short poems by Hilaire Belloc. And in a way, they're easy lines to learn. They're from a longer poem called Dedicatory Ode. But I love these 4 lines. And I was thinking about when I was in hospital last time. I've had some stitches, and a good friend of mine came, and he made me laugh so much that it really almost burst the stitches. But I did like the laughing. Laughing is very good. We do need to laugh. So these are the 4 lines, my little message for your listeners and for you. 4 lines by Hilaire Belloc. From quiet homes and first beginning, out to the undiscovered ends, there's nothing worth the wear of winning but laughter and the love of friends.
It's the perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Gyles. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Before I go,
oh yeah, sure.
Because I've forgotten, you're showing this on video, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, I ought to say to the viewers of, what is your podcast? What is your view?
So it's the Isolation Interviews series.
The Isolation Interviews series with you, Matthew. What's your surname? How do you say your surname?
Rolland, Rolland.
It was. I wasn't saying it because I wasn't sure if it was Rolland or Roland. It's also available visually, and because it's hospital radio, just as a little joke, because I don't have a hospital jumper, and I know my face can be seen. In order to show fellow feeling, I put a little bandage on my nose to show that I care. That I've been in the wars too.
Thank you so much, Gyles. Of course, keep safe, and thank you again for giving up your time.
Yes, a little namaste. Keep safe to you too. Well done. Reading rocks. I used to have, but I'm just one last thing.
yeah.
I used to have a jumper years ago. That said on the back, I love reading. And on the front, it said no VAT on reading, because there was a time when there was talk of introducing value-added tax on books. So no VAT on reading. And people thought I was saying no VAT on reading, and it cost quite a lot. Anyway, I love reading, I love reading, and I love hospital radio. Thank you and good night.